In our world, we are being presented with many problems. Albert Einstein gave great advice in this matter when he said problems cannot be solved by the level of knowledge or awareness that created them. In other words, we have to get outside our own boxes. Well, a mystic sees beyond a box to what has been hidden or what has been forgotten, what is not seen. My name is Sharon Raji Maynard. It was curiosity that took me on a radical search for answers. And those answers came to me from ancient ones, those in spiritual worlds, unseen to the eye. And this knowledge foundations my podcast, A Mystic's View. Come as you are to see situations through my eyes as we sit together. Diversity, uniqueness, is a natural condition, a natural outcome within humanity, and hearing diverse ideas and thoughts expands our own capacities. So I encourage you to listen to A Mystic's View, to hear, to be enhanced, and to consider other possibilities. I welcome you to this journey. Sand holding the warmth of the sun. Feel a breeze across the water blowing on my back. A great driftwood log is there to lean against and hold me, and the gentle roar of the waves are filling the air. That is the experience at my favorite beach where I'm writing this episode. I'm always fascinated by the various faces this beach presents. The ocean water rises and falls, high tide, low tide. But the beach, dunes, ledges, stones, shells, and sea glass it leaves behind is never the same. I have not been down here for over a week, and I hardly recognize it. If I had a need to have the same beach face every time, proof of the relationship we have formed, I would be saddened at the loss of a good friend. Well, in truth, I did have a tiny tug as I walked through the plants that opened into the beach. The familiar is often comforting, even if it is restricting. Learning to let go of the familiar is the invitation that life brings us. People, situations, experiences, they come, and some make cracks in your box of life. Today I'm on the beach, writing in an old and yet new environment, ready to take you on the last leg of this part of my journey. In 1984, I didn't understand much of what my friend Richard shared. His words flowed into my mind, resonated with some inner me. But I could not play with the concepts he shared. There was nothing from what I had been taught that could interact. Why did I not push the concepts away, stand up in fierce support of my old teachings? I don't know. Curiosity, perhaps. But I treasure that part of myself. In 1984, it may be that I had been sensitized to an inner discernment through my years of working with Sananda. It was certainly part of the reason. The old familiar resonance with the male voices, such as Apostle McConkie, had been replaced with a resonance of my own. The old fear to not consider other ideas and certainly don't question childhood authorities had been replaced with experiences that had developed my own sense of inner safety and guidance. In writing of my experiences earlier on, went back to the BYU devotional archive and listened to the audio of Apostle McConkie's speech. I recognized the timbre in the voice, the speed of the words, the undercurrent of authority, the pull it had for so long. And I was grateful for other voices that encouraged self-awareness, building wisdom of self-valuing, walking your path to become stronger. Back in 1984 in Boise, with Richard, affirmations, Peter, rebirthing, and of course, kidney stones to decide live or die, I realized that without the future cracking of my box that Boise had brought, I would have been in Utah with the kidney stones coming, perhaps never having experienced what life can be within a larger box. Without that unconscious choice to live that Boise brought, I would not have had two options on my table, live or die. I would have had only one, leave this life as soon as I can. Perhaps, and this is simply an assumption, but perhaps my life would have ended in some Utah hospital from systemic infections created by kidney stones. It was not long after the rebirthing experience and my head shifted from dual to single that I began to feel a tug to move. So by 1986, I was in Ogden, Utah, bringing new ideas and experiences and only 5 of my children with me. It was in Ogden that I decided to add a new voice to the community. I opened space for conversations of new ideas to the majority of the Mormon community, and I named the space the Open Door. I wasn't willing to share my own stories or ideas, but I was, however, willing to host other speakers and teachers. I also published a monthly printed newsletter, The Winds of Change. Now, back then, no internet, you see, so all of that paper had to be typed, cut, laid out, pasted, and then that taken to the local printer. Costs were covered by advertisers, and then I would distribute it to various bookstores and libraries from Salt Lake City to Logan, and eventually even into Seattle, Washington. In 1989, I attended a yearly family reunion. There was Shirley, a cousin whom I had grown up with just a few blocks from home. I had not seen her since high school. As we chatted about where life had taken us, I told her about the Open Door and the Winds of Change. "Oh," she said, "I think you're doing something my sister Nancy is doing in New York. Now, I don't understand it much, but if you'd like her phone number, I'll get it for you." And Shirley opened her bag to search. Well, she walked away with a Winds of Change tucked into her handbag, and I walked away with a small slip of paper tucked in mine. That slip of paper would not leave my mind. It lay hidden in my purse, but its voice did not. So a few days later, I picked up the phone and dialed Nancy in New York. Now, I had not talked with her for 33 years. And yet, as soon as I said my name, she embraced me all the way to Ogden, Utah. We talked for over an hour. As we closed, I heard myself saying, "If I ever come to New York, I'll be sure to let you know." "Oh, absolutely," she responded. "And you can stay with me in my apartment." We laughed at the idea, and silently, I knew I was safe. I would not be going. Too many limits, too many I can'ts, and I was safe in my limit. When I got off the phone, I talked to my partner, Dave, about the call. And he asked, "Are you going?" Well, I felt super secure in saying, "Perhaps," knowing I would not have to make that stretch. I had no money. Well, he said, "I have airline miles and you can use them for a round-trip ticket." I'm sure I was like a deer in the headlight. The bottom dropped out of my world. Now I had no excuse. I think that there is an assumption that there is an automatic excitement when new opportunities come your way. And that has not always been my experience. The familiar is often small and limiting. However, it is known, and the known can be comfortable even in its smallness. Here is where I'm going to stop and let you ponder. The question is, what is a big dream you have? What have you thought you would really like to do or create or experience, but you have not? Grab a notebook or journal and write it down. Writing simply captures the possibility. You're not required to go after it or even look at yourself as insufficient because you have not achieved it. Writing it is just a neutral action to notice and name it. I didn't do that in 1989. I simply picked up the phone, talked to Nancy about good timing, her availability after her European trip, and booked my ticket. I'd traveled before, so when the day of the trip came and I found myself very unbalanced, bordering on dread, which is not where I usually am, I was curious. As my partner drove me to the airport, I asked Dave to do some mantras with me to simply help me stay focused. As I often did, I asked Sananda on the way, "Is the plane safe?" "Yes," came the reply. "Is everything about the trip in order?" "Oh, it certainly is," was the answer. "Then why am I feeling this way?" I asked. There was that chuckle. "Because after this trip, your life will never be the same. Just breathe." And I did. I breathed all the way to New York. I breathed as I got lost in the LaGuardia airport. I breathed through my 10-day visit with Nancy. Now, I had told myself that I was going to interview Nancy for the Winds of Change. How is it that a woman raised in the Mormon culture of Utah had ended up doing crystal chakra balancing work in New York City and Europe? 10 days later, I flew back home. No interview. But I had 10 clear quartz crystals and a process by which I could listen to and work with the energy points called chakras. Nancy was helping individuals heal old pain, old trauma, disease. Well, I was a reluctant, air quote, healer. And I was going to leap off the cliff of that old childhood box that says, women don't do that. And I would either fly or fall flat on my face. I flew. Thanks for coming along on this episode. These various sharings may stretch your mind, challenge your dogma, awaken new possibilities, or even resonate with your own experiences. I'd love to hear any of that. And you can find me on Facebook under A Mystic's View, and the same YouTube, A Mystic's View. When you see the value of this podcast, please share it with your friends. A Mystic's View is also on Patreon, where those who want to support and be a part of this growing community can participate. That would be at www.patreon.com/A Mystic's View. The pressures of this world is rising, and what does that mean? How can you respond? My intention is is that through this podcast, you will gain more insight, encouragement to discover yourself. Until next time, blessings.